All right, welcome, guys. This is Breakfast with the Brand, the number one podcast in the world for entrepreneurs and leaders who want to take their brands to the next level. I am your host, Junior Frederick, and I have with me the man himself, Mr. Bobby Stealth. And of course, as usual, we're going to get into some interesting conversation. So, two things. Number one, if you tuned in live, put your flames in the chat and also let us know where you're listening in from. Bobby, what's up? How you doing?
I'm doing great, Junior. I'm doing great. I'm disrupting myself. I'm
Okay.
disrupting myself this week. So I'm working on getting big. Okay. So to get big, your body needs rest. So it's interesting now from going from working out 7 days a week, 6 days a week to working out 3 times a week. And I don't like it. I don't like it. But my body needs to be thrashed like that, like really worked for 3 days, and then I need to give it 4 days to recover and eat and sleep and rest. And I'm like, oh, I don't like this. I don't like this. But when you're losing weight, it's calorie deficit. You have to be in a caloric deficit, meaning you need to be burning more calories than you're eating. When you're gaining weight, it's the exact opposite. You got to be eating more calories than you're burning. And now I'm just like, oh, this feels wrong. This feels wrong. I'm starting to see my cuts go away. They call it bulking phase. You have a cutting phase and a bulking phase. And I'm in the bulking phase right now, and I'm just looking at my abs slowly disappear. The definition of them slowly disappear. I'm looking at my arms like get wider, but the cut going away, and I'm like, I don't like it, but it's necessary. And the reason I'm sharing this with you guys right now is because you're going to go through cycles and seasons in your business. You're going to be in times in your business where you're like, whoo, I'm crushing it. The money's here. The cash flow is here. The sales are here. And that's cutting phase. That's when you're like cutting all of the loose ends. You're cutting all the dead weight and you're just running lean. But if you want to get bigger in business, you got to do the same thing you do with your body. So when you're getting lean, caloric deficit, when you're burning more calories than you're eating, you're pretty much cutting expenses. So now you're running more efficiently, meaning you have more energy, you've got more money. But if you're going to grow, you have to be in a caloric overload, which means you have more expenses, bigger investments, and less money. But guess what happens? If you do it right, you get stronger, you get bigger, and then you get another opportunity to cut, but you're cutting at a far higher weight. So instead of cutting down to what you used to be, you're going to cut down fat, but you're going to have more muscle. So that means that if you're in a cycle right now in your business where you feel like, man, I got investment on top of investment, is more cash going out than it's coming in. If you're making strategic investments, meaning if I'm eating chicken breasts, rice, and vegetables, yeah, I'm taking in more, but it's the right stuff. Same thing in your business. If you're buying, coaching, websites, consulting, and you're buying all these different things, taking in these expenses, yeah, it's heavy. You don't like it, but it's necessary because you need that nutrients. You need those insights. You need that support. You need the help, and your business will thank you for it when it's time to cut again. So that's where I'm at. I'm at that space where I just got to accept the fact that I'm going to gain weight in order to get bigger. There's no way around
Bobby, I don't know about you, but that sounds like a good problem to have to me.
it.
Guys, put it in the chat if you would like to sleep more, eat more, train less. That sounds. I'll sign up. Sign me up.
Oh man,
Sign
yeah,
me up. Like I'm ready to go. You don't have to convince me on that one. Like train less, eat more, and sleep more. I mean, most people would definitely like that problem. So you have a great problem, brother. You have a great problem. And guys, we're about to head into the first break. But when we come back, we're gonna be diving into more team development. The team development side of the house today. So you definitely want to stay tuned if you're a leader or if you're an aspiring leader, a leader that's coming up, a future leader, then you definitely want to be part of this conversation. So stay tuned. We'll be right back after this short break. This is Breakfast with the Brand. Let's grow.
There's slow growth and then there's scale. There's incremental growth and then there's exponential growth. What I want to talk to you about is adding a zero to you and experiencing exponential scale. Incremental growth says 1 plus 1 is 2. Exponential growth says 1 plus 0 is 10. Incremental growth says 2 plus 2 is 4. Exponential growth says 5 plus 0 is 50. Guys, listen, when you add a zero to you, you can add a zero to the marketplace. You can add a zero to the value that you bring. So you can add a zero to your family, add a zero to your legacy. This is what we're talking about. We're not talking about incremental, we're talking about exponential. I always say that business is a spiritual game. Just imagine when you combine your skills, your values, your abilities, your talents to something bigger than you, something greater than you, something like the power of exponential. That is adding a zero. Add a zero to your competence, add a zero to your confidence. This is about adding a zero in your life, your value, your industry, and your mission. Let's grow. In brand clarity, exactly what you're going to get is what it sounds like. Clarity for your brand. What is your color? What is your logo? What is your unique value proposition? Who are you speaking to? Why? How should you speak to them? How should I position myself? That's what you're going to learn in brand clarity. You need other people to have the same clarity on your brand that you do. But this is the gap. If you don't have clarity on your brand, then no one else is going to have clarity on your brand either. It's like messaging. Your message sounds clear to you, but is your end user receiving the value that you're trying to provide? I guarantee you that after you go through brand clarity, they will, and so will you. And that's how you'll scale your brand.
All right, guys, welcome back. Of course, this is Breakfast with the Brand. If you're now tuning in, put your flames in the chat and let us know how everything's going with you. Bobby, by the way, there's a big hurricane going on. So I'm just praying that everybody in Texas, like everybody who's looking at the show from Texas, is safe, number one, as well as all of the other places where Hurricane Beryl is going. It did come through St. Lucia, and luckily, we didn't have that much damage. So thank God for that. But just want to send prayers to everybody that is facing this monstrous hurricane at this particular time. Now, that being said, Bobby, let's get right into the topic. So I'll let you sort of open this up. And of course, guys, we are taking questions. This is 100% live. So if you have any questions, you could put them directly in the comments. We will read every single comment and we will answer any question that you may have. So let's get into it.
So I was thinking about why most entrepreneurs never get to six figures. Now, if you're with us, six figures sounds like a small number. Like you've been following us, like six figures, that's a slow month. It's a slow month. Sometimes it's a slow week. Okay. Now, the reality, however, is the large population of US entrepreneurs never make it over $50,000 a year. They don't. Now, when you think about getting to six figures, that means 10K a month. Very few entrepreneurs ever make it to 6K a month, to 10K a month. And there's an even smaller number that ever see $1 million in business in 1 year. And those that do see $1 million aren't able to sustain that growth for extended periods of time. And I was thinking long and hard about this. I'm like, why is that? And here's the reason. Leadership. Because it takes a team to build the dream. And very few entrepreneurs that I meet have teams. And it's not because they don't want a team. It's because they don't know how to lead a team. Pay attention. You can pay a person to do some work for you, But if you're not leading them and you're not developing them and you're not guiding them in the direction of the organization's vision, the work that they do will rarely be the work that you need done because they're not in alignment with you. They're not in alignment with where you're going. They're not bought in. So today we're going to talk about leadership qualities. We're going to talk about what good leaders do to lead their teams effectively and how you can start developing a culture that resonates with your objectives, your intentions. So that's what we're going to dive into today. And I want to focus this around generating revenue because that's what most people want. That's what everybody needs: cash, cash. Now, we obviously know that that comes from sales, but sales is normally the beginning of the transaction, but nowhere near the end of the relationship. So before you even get to cash, there has to be relationship development. You know, you got to meet people, you got to introduce them to your brand, you got to develop them and educate them on why they need to do business with you. Like all of that takes time and energy, and you are rarely going to be able to do all of that by yourself. And then after you get them on the call, you close the deal, collect the cash, there's an entire fulfillment process. See, most people don't get to 10K a month because they can't fulfill that degree of value. They can't produce that value on their own. Because if you get them in and you close the deal, but you're only able to produce $2,000 worth of value by yourself, then you're only going to be able to make $2,000 a month. Let's say you can only produce 4K by yourself. Let's say you can do 6K, 7K. How many people can really generate $10,000 worth of value by themselves? Some can, but it's after several years of developing a particular skill set and after being in a particular position. So the question that I have for all of you all that are watching right now is, I'm not doing 10K a month. I want you to look around your business and tell me if you're the only person you see working on the vision as hard as you're working on it. Are you the only one? Do you have someone doing marketing? Do you have a coach guiding you? Do you have someone helping you with copywriting? Do you have someone assisting you with sales? Do you have someone helping you fulfill your offers? Do you have someone refining the marketing message? Do you have someone doing the accounting? Do you have someone taking a look at the finances? That's why many businesses don't get off the ground. So that's what we're going to be diving into, Junior. So my first question for you is, you've hit the 10K, you've passed the 10K monthly before. So my question for you is, did you do it all by yourself, or did you find yourself at times bringing in family, bringing in outside help, hiring VAs, putting a team together in order to deliver the value?
Yeah, I think 10K. Well, number one, it depends on the business model that you're in. Um, I'm assuming the business model we're talking about is ours, which is the information, basically information products. That's what you would call the niche. So if you sell maybe like an online course, or you sell any kind of knowledge through coaching, through consulting, it's more like information based. So that's what you call that niche. If you're in this particular niche and you're looking to go to 10K, it can be done on your own, Bobby. Like you can produce 10K on your own. You can get to six figures on your own. But I don't think you get to the high six figures. But the thing is, you'd have to have a lot of support to do that. Like I've never seen one person that has started off with literally all the skills. So for example, you know how to market, then you know how to make videos, then you know how to sell, then you know how to build products, then you also know how to coach, and you also know I've never seen one person that can literally do everything. There are people that can, okay? There are people that can. I happen to know one of them. I happen to know one of them. So I happen to just be one of them, okay? That I can do most of these things that I mentioned. But most people they cannot. So most people need that additional support. So I would say you can get started on your own, but eventually you will need some kind of support, at least somebody to look at what you do. Nobody makes money on their own. You have to make money with people, right? And those people will be either your team members or your clients slash customers. So I would say you can start off on your own, but the idea is not to finish on your own. The idea is to have other people involved. Ultimately, that's
And
what you look.
I'll say this, Junior, I happen to be one of those people as well. But let me tell you guys something. It didn't happen in a year. Like I studied those that know my background know that my bachelor's of science is entrepreneurship with a concentration in finance and economics. So I went through college on exactly how to build businesses. And that was a 4-year ordeal. And then I went through branded like a leader, coaching like a leader, consulting like a leader, closing like a leader, speaking like a leader, marketing like a leader, branded like a leader 2.0. And oh my goodness, there was one more. We didn't do community like a leader yet, but there were different trainings that we did leading up to community like a leader when we were just talking about building communities and how to create markets. And the reality is you can do it, but if you take this approach, the 10K goes up and down. You're an EKG machine because business is volatile. So I'm not saying to you guys it's impossible. I'm saying that if you want to build a business, leadership is required because leadership is the one thing that allows you to leverage the experience, expertise, and education of others. Without this capacity to lead, then you're constantly finding yourself trying to do all the things. And when you're trying to do all the things, I'm going to tell you the first thing that suffers. The first thing that suffers starts with an F, and it's not finances. It's not finances. It's not fitness. It's not even your fun. It's not even none of that. The first thing to suffer if you try to do this all on your own is your family. It's your family because you don't have any time for them. You don't have any energy for them. You don't have any capacity for them. You have no social life. So leaders normally that aren't leaders, people that try to build a business but aren't leaders, they end up burning out because they are trying to do everything by themselves and save money. When if they would just spend the money, get the help, improve their leadership, and lead the people, they would actually be executing as entrepreneurs and they'd actually be successful or have a higher likelihood of success. So I'm going to give you guys an acronym that I use for leadership. So go ahead and write this down. What is written is retained. Leadership. L, learn. E, enthusiasm. A, attitude. This is an acronym. D, discipline. E, energy. R, relationships. S, strategy. H, honesty. I, intention. And P, perspective. So the great leaders that I know and the capacities and qualities that I have learned that you need in order to inspire people is you have to be learned, as they say. You have to be well-rounded. You have to know, because we call it the law of the lid. You cannot lead people that you don't have the capacity to inspire. So if someone is much smarter than you, you can still lead them, but you have to be able to think in a way that they feel compelled to follow. For example, I am in the CFO space. So I work for CEOs that have no idea about what finance even looks like. Like they could care less. But I still can follow behind their leadership if they are educated and learn it in their industry and my responsibilities as CFO and what they're trying to accomplish, because they can then lead me and guide me in what they're looking for because they have educated themselves on what they need. Leaders that are not learning, they say leaders are readers. Like if you're not reading, if you're not consuming, if you're not growing, it's really hard. So as we dive into these acronyms, what do you think, Junior, about the role of learning for leaders?
So the role of learning. What I would say about that, I mean, if you're leading somebody, you have to be giving them some kind of information. So the whole reason I'm following someone is because they know something that I don't know. Like they have to, and that's me. Maybe other people are different, but I would follow somebody who knows something that I don't know, and that is in whatever field I'm trying to get better in. So if let's say health, let's say fitness, if I'm following a fitness instructor, it's because he or she knows something that I don't know. If I'm following a business coach, it's because they know something that I don't know. It means that they have learned, like you say, they've learned, or they're learned, as you would say, in that particular space, and that's why we follow him. Like, what's the point of, following somebody who, like you say, maybe they don't know as much as you, or you cannot move them. So I don't really see the point of following somebody who's not doing it. So I agree, like that should definitely be inside of there, um, because why not? Was the like I don't see the alternative, Bobby. I don't see the benefit. And like I say, other people may be different, but to me, a leader is somebody who knows something that you don't know. Now, my favorite style of leadership is I like to follow people who have been down the path that I would like to go, meaning that you've sort of had similar experiences. So if I'm following somebody, let's say they're in the sales space, they've gone through the journey. So they've been on the phones, they've been on the Zooms, they've been, if it's selling in person, if they're selling cars, they've been selling cars, like they've been in it, they've actually been in the trenches, they've gone through the experience, they've learned the lessons themselves. I like to follow people that that have real world experience and that have actually learned stuff by going through stuff. Like if you just read something and then you tell me something, I don't respect that. I just can't. I need to know that you've been through something, because then you have what I call specialized knowledge. That's me. Okay. Other people may be different, but having an effective leader always, always, always means that that leader is, like you say, learned, okay, or they've learned stuff. But the kind of stuff that I'm talking about and that I'm looking for is specialized knowledge. So it's not just, you just read a book. I want to know that you've actually done what you're talking about. Or you have some kind of experience with it. And then that I can definitely see, being a follower of that.
Right. Yeah. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to just touch on these briefly so that I can get Junior's perspective on all of these and give you guys my insights on them as well. So I'm going to go pretty fast, but only because leadership's a pretty long word in this acronym. I want to get through all of them. So enthusiasm. Enthusiasm is taking the spirit of belief and transferring it to someone else. Now, that's my definition. Enthusiasm is taking a spirit of belief and transferring it to someone else. So if you enthusiastically open the front door and greet somebody, you're transferring energy to that person. And leaders have to be enthusiastic about what they're doing, because they're trying to transfer a belief that something that is seemingly unlikely is very possible. So imagine that. You're trying to convey the belief that something that is seemingly impossible is very like it's doable. So it's seemingly unlikely, but it's very possible. And that's a component that a lot of people aren't always comfortable doing. And I believe that goes back to confidence. So confidence and enthusiasm are kind of hand in hand, but they're not the same thing. I believe you need confidence to be enthusiastic because you have to believe, but you also need to be enthusiastic in the sense that you have to be possessed by your belief. in order to transfer that belief to others. What do you think about enthusiasm, Junior?
Bobby, we call it in my world, we call it winning energy. That's what we call it. So to me, a good leader has what we call winning energy. If you don't have winning energy, then I can't follow you if you don't have winning energy. Winning energy comes from a perspective. I call it mental magic. That's my, and by the way, that's my, you heard it here first. That's my thing. My thing is mental magic. That's what I call it. But, other people call it the winning energy. So if you notice, the most successful people, they have what you call winning energy. When you get around them, you could immediately tell that they're successful because they have a positive outlook. They're sharp as a tack. They look clear. They look energized. They look like they're ready to go. They look like, the world is just a phenomenal place. And it's so interesting because I was listening to something just the other day. In fact, it was a speech. Patrick Bet David, he was talking, and he was talking about short-term thinkers and long-term thinkers. And he was talking about the same concept that winners have this type of energy that they can sort of see a positive outlook because they're not short-term thinkers. So it's like imagine the world is crashing around you. Okay. You can, let's say you walk into an office, the world is crashing, like something is happening outside. You walk up to like 8 out of 10 people. Hey, Bobby, how you doing? Oh man, did you see what's going on outside? And this and that is happening. Oh, hey, how you doing? Person number two. Oh man, this and that happened. I can't make it to work because da 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 da. Person number three. How you doing? Oh, I don't know. I just feel a little tired today. Person number four. Oh man, today is Monday. I don't know why we come into this office. Like they're complaining. They're complaining and they're thinking of creative ways to be, quite frankly, just lazy. Bobby, back when I did HVAC, I came up with something. I observed something. Like when you work, and this isn't like any field, I suppose, there are always like the 20% of people that work that actually work hard. Like actually work hard. Maybe 10%, maybe 20% is a lot.
Yeah.
Between 5 to 10%, you have people that actually work hard. Then you have the others. So you have some people that work really hard. You have some people that will push for a little bit and then they'll sort of retract. So they have limits. They'll be like, okay, I'm gonna work hard, but I'm not gonna, I'm gonna kill myself at this job. So that they'll say stuff like that. And
Yeah.
then you have the other, like the large majority who are what I call strategically lazy. So they will find strategic ways to not do work.
Yeah.
Literally. Like they will be, bro, I kid you, it'll be like a chess game. It'll be like a guy. Let's just imagine you and a guy went to install an air condition. Okay, this is talking about real world experience here. This guy is thinking 5 moves ahead so that when the time comes to carry all the heavy equipment, you end up being the one basically doing all the work. And I observed that and I coined it strategic laziness.
Mm,
Now, leaders who are long-term thinkers and not short-term thinkers are not strategically lazy, okay? And they have what I call the winning energy, which is the enthusiasm that you're talking about, because to them the future looks bright.
mhm.
That's it. The future always looks bright. If and you're an economist, if you look at the stock market from back in, like for all of the crashes, and you look at it today, what does it tell you? Future looks bright.
Yeah.
It means that it doesn't matter what happened today, there's always something positive that's coming in the future. And when you as a leader have that outlook, that whatever happens to you today, the future looks bright, you cannot help but have the winning energy because it means that as long as you stay on your path, you're going to do big things, you're going to do great things, you're going to do amazing things, and most likely you're going to make your dreams come true. And I think that's where that enthusiasm sort of comes from.
1000%. Junior, we're already at 40 minutes in. I can't believe that. So let's go ahead and go to a break, come back, and we've only gone through the first two letters. But before we go to this break, guys, what I want you all to be thinking about, and Joel put some phenomenal stuff in the chat, so did Dr. Michelle D. Clark. So we're definitely going to address those when we get back. But What I want you all to be thinking about right now as you're writing this down and taking these notes is that the moment you start executing on more of the things that we're talking about, I guarantee you, you will start having a team of people gather around you. And then here's why I can guarantee it. Because your team is all around you right now. You just haven't delegated to them what to do. And this is going to put you in the right mind frame, energy, and perspective to start touching those people that are all around you and then start leading them. So stay tuned. We'll be right back.
I said Shaan Ride East. I'm proud. I said Shaan Ride East. Leadership is not the brand they made for us.
Listen, he brought fire, heat. He didn't hold back.
20 years down the line, what I could sell, why not serve first? Service over salary. Branding like a leader closes the gap for people who want branding. Speaking like a leader closes the gap for people who are nervous about speaking. If Steve Jobs would have speculated, we wouldn't have Apple.
He changed lives. He helped people open up their business and start their business.
We are the brand. Some people say, Shaan, should I quit my job? Mentally, yes.
As a speaker too, to be able to learn from him and watch him and game respects game. And I want to have that much game someday.
The right client, pay $500,000 for what you do. You have to be bold in your beliefs.
He has been an amazing asset to this event and a pleasure to work with. Very captivating, collaborative, worked very well with the audience.
I want to help you. Put a 0 behind your number, right?
The session was great. How he is online, virtually, he is even more phenomenal in person.
Be the face of change that you want to see. Stop asking questions and start giving demands.
The entire team has just been absolutely incredible. They are a joy to work with. They go above and beyond.
Give yourself a round of applause. Yes, yes, yes.
All right, guys, welcome back. So, Bobby, let's get a couple of these comments, then we'll dive right back in. So let's get Joel's comments. So Joel says, leadership is a dynamic interplay of inspiring others and connecting deeply with them, thereby steering not just individuals, but whole organizations towards growth and success. That was poetic. That was poetic. Very nice. I'm going to put a little star. I'm going to put a little star by that, Bobby. That was really nice.
Right.
Dr. Michelle says, strategic laziness and winning energy. That's right. So, and by the way, if you're at a job, like if you're going into a job today, just test out my theory. If you're going into an office place today, just test out my theory, and come back on the show and tell me it's not true. Just test it out. When you walk into the job, you'll see like there like 10% of people that are actually doing the work. There's like another 30% that's working, a little bit, and then the rest is just like they're playing chess with the organization and looking for ways to be lazy. That's just my observation. So, but yeah.
Absolutely. So attitude is A. Now, attitude is something that we've kind of gotten away from, I think, as a society, at least in the Western world. So I remember there was a time in Bob Proctor's day, back in Jim Rohn's time, back Les Brown, everybody was talking about your attitude determines your altitude. That was a real big thing back then. But we've gotten away from that. However, the military has not. The military still talks about attitude. So I want to rekindle that competency, that capacity, because attitude is actually a very interesting skill. So attitude, in my experience, is a manifestation or byproduct of self-regulation. So leaders have the ability to regulate themselves. And when you have a good attitude, we're not saying that you're happy all the time. We're not saying that you're oblivious to the negativity around you or the failures that you're encountering. Good attitude means that you have mastered the ability to respond to your environment positively despite outside influence. I'll say that again. Attitude means that you have mastered the ability to regulate your response positively despite outside circumstances. So, attitude is all about your mindset. And when you have a good attitude, it means that you're able to show up in any situation and perform with the intent of producing a positive outcome. One more time, when you have a good attitude, it means you have the ability to perform positively with the expectation of a positive outcome despite outside circumstances. And great leaders have to have a good attitude because we are, like Michelle said, masters of the ebbs and flow. We are who everybody looks to when everything's going to crap. Like when the business is going down, the money's not flowing like it should be, everything's going like crazy, you look to your leaders. And if the leader has a bad attitude, then the leader has pretty much said the outside influences and negative pressure are controlling the way I react to my situation. And thus they react negatively. Whereas good attitudes and leaders with self-regulation say, despite the outside circumstances, my internal ability to determine how I respond based on where I keep my mindset, which is my attitude, determines my outcomes. And that's what your team needs. They need to know that you have a good attitude so that they can have a good attitude. So when they go through down times, they still hold a positive expectation of our outcome. And that's very important. So what are your thoughts on attitude, Junior?
It's mental magic, bro. It's the same thing. It's the same thing. Having the mental model. Like, where does attitude come from? Attitude comes from a positive outlook on whatever it is that you're dealing with. Like having a good attitude comes from having a positive outlook or a positive perspective. And I think perspective was
It is.
one of your tenets. So in my opinion, everything starts with an attitude. Now, we say that if you want to determine your altitude, look at your attitude, right? And that's a very real thing. I believe in frequency, I believe in energy, I believe attitude has a lot to do with that. I think a positive attitude allows you to resonate at a higher energy, and that goes into the one we just spoke about, which goes into enthusiasm and what I call the winning energy. So the winning energy starts with a positive attitude. In fact, if you ask somebody in sales, they'll tell you attitude is the first step on the road to the sale.
Yeah.
It's literally the first step. If you're about to sell anything, it could be shoe shine, it could be whatever. If you step out of your door to sell with a nasty attitude, the chances of you being a top performer is very, very low. It's very low. So attitude is literally the first step, I believe. But attitude comes from that perspective.
1000%. So we're going to keep pushing, guys. We got like 10 minutes to get through these, a little bit more. But discipline is the D. Now, my perspective on discipline when it comes to leadership is that you have to be disciplined in your decision making. So people cannot follow effectively those that are indecisive. And indecision normally comes from a lack of discipline. And in entrepreneurship, guys, this is very difficult to do it at times. And the reason it's difficult to do is because you're executing in a world where everything is uncertain, nothing's certain. You don't know if a client's going to pay. You don't know if a client's going to pass away. Literally, you don't know if your business is going to fall off a cliff because like I was working with a client once, had 4 or 5 stores, 3 or 5 stores, something like that. And they had CBD products. The entire business, like 80%, 85% of the business's revenue came from CBD sales. 1 month later, the entire government outlawed it. They were like, this is no longer legal to sell. Wow. This leader had 85% of their revenue disappear through one legislative change. Now, if you are a learner, you are probably paying attention to the market. You're probably paying attention to the legal system. You're probably paying attention to what was going on. But if you're an entrepreneur doing everything by yourself and you have very little help and you're trying to stay afloat, that caught her by surprise. And in this case, it did catch her by surprise. She didn't know. And then she was freaking out. And I think they lost their business. Now, why do I share that so candidly? Because when you are making decisions in an entrepreneurial environment, everything is in flux. And discipline decision making, for that matter, is the ability to do what has been predetermined as necessary, despite your preference for doing them or the ease in which it can be done. For example, I might not like getting up and going to the gym, but if I've predetermined that going to the gym is required, I got to do it. Now, I also can say I like doing it, but it's not easy to do. Let's say I've got to go drive and it's cold outside. So what? Still got to do it. So discipline is one of those things that leaders really need to have, especially when it comes to decision making, because if you're not disciplined in your decision making, you become, or you come off at least, as indecisive, and no one can successfully follow the indecisive leader. So what are your thoughts on this one, Junior?
Bobby, not even, and I agree with the indecision, but not even going that far. If you're not disciplined, I don't trust people who are not disciplined. I just don't. Because if you cannot be disciplined for yourself, why should I believe you're gonna be disciplined for me? Like that, this is like one of the things, like, so when I see somebody who takes their, let's say, like, fitness seriously, that you can tell, maybe I'm not saying they're Arnold Schwarzenegger, right? I'm just saying, like, you can tell, like, they work out, they train, they take health seriously, like, you can tell that, they're not necessarily looking to get muscle or anything like that. You can just tell that they take their health seriously. You can tell that that person has some kind of discipline. If I could see discipline when I look at you, that makes me feel more comfortable being able to trust you.
Yep.
But and I'm a big believer in how you do one thing is how you do everything. I'm a big believer in that. So, hey, if you're not disciplined with most things in your life, what makes me think that you'll be disciplined in business? You'll be disciplined as a coach. You'll be disciplined as a partner.
Yeah.
I don't see it happening. So, I mean, not even going as far as the indecision. I'm saying if you don't have discipline, there won't be any decision to make because I'm not going to trust you to make any decision if you're
Yeah.
not disciplined.
Right, right. And as we move into E, which is going to be energy, I just want to keep tying this back down. Like, the whole purpose that we're having this conversation is because most entrepreneurs don't make it because they don't have a team. And they don't have a team because they're not executing these things. They're not learning enough. They may have, man, I wish we had more time. So I'm just going to go into E, man. But just pay attention, guys. Pay attention. E, energy. So energy in this instance is twofold. It is your frequency, how you vibrate, how you show up, but it's also your reservoir. So when you are building a business or doing anything really worthwhile, it takes time. Like, Rome wasn't built in a day. No business. What do they say? It took me 10 years to become an overnight success. So what we're really saying when we say energy is, do you have a reservoir of endurance that flows effortlessly? And if it doesn't flow effortlessly, it flows continuously. Effortless is great, but maybe it's not effortless, but at least it's continuous. And that comes from eating well. That comes from exercising regularly. That comes from getting rest. That comes from training, being healthy. And when I say training, I mean mind, body, and spirit, because longevity, energy, like the ability to consistently bombard and like crush, break through like obstacles, that's all energy. It's all energy. It's how much more energy do you have to give than the obstacle standing in front of you has to withstand. And if the obstacle in front of you cannot withstand your relentless energy, you will break through it. And many times people don't follow leaders because they don't believe the leader has enough energy to break through the barricades. But if you show that you're relentless and have a bottomless reservoir of energy, you can normally get someone to follow behind you because they know that you're not going to stop. And if you don't stop, they know that they can keep going. And that's a very psychological trust factor that leaders and followers need to establish for there to be trust. So what are your thoughts on energy from that perspective, the reservoir, the ability to continue and persist?
Yeah, I think you need to have a reservoir for all important areas in your life. So you should have a reservoir for your family. You should have a reservoir for business. You should have a reservoir for, when you go to the gym. You should have a reservoir for all of the important areas. I want to add one more thing to what you said about energy. I'm going to add in community. Community brings energy. And not even community, but, just your circle. Now, a community is part of a circle. So there are two parts to a circle. Okay, so if we had to draw a circle right now, how many of you know the two parts? The first part is the inner circle, and then the second part is the outer circle. So ask yourself, who's in your circle? So your circle gives you energy. Bobby, there are certain circles when I get around those circles, I literally feel the energy, like you can get zapped. There are certain circles when you come into those circles, you can literally get zapped. You feel like a zap of energy just surging through your body. Now, chances are, if you have low energy, then the environment that you're in, the community that you're in, the circle that you're in is a circle of low energy. Chances are, if you have high energy, you're normally in a high energy environment. So I just want to add one more thing. If you're looking to change your energy, you need to change your circle and change your community so then you could then change your energy. In fact, that's like the fastest way I know. If you get around somebody who has winning energy is contagious. And you will literally feel the visceral reaction. Like it's almost like a sensory thing where you could actually feel the energy increasing once you get around people that have that winning energy. So I'm going to put in community and circle.
Incredible. So moving on to relationships. So leaders foster relationships. So Junior says something very eloquently. He says people can leave a service, a product, a person, but they don't easily leave relationships. And when I heard him say that for the first time, I'm not sure if he came up with that, but he's the first person I heard say it. I thought that it was really good. And I was like, that's one to put a pin in. So for me, relationships I have found is the only thing that I won't say it that way. I'll say it this way. Love begins with a relationship. Now, love is not only this romantic thing. Love oftentimes is a very tough thing. Like when you love someone, you tell them things they don't want to hear. When you love someone, you do things for them that they might not want you to do. When you love someone, you hold them accountable and you don't let them slack. But in order to love someone properly, meaning like in order for someone to correct you and you receive the criticism and take corrective action, there has to be a relationship there. Because if there isn't a relationship there, then they won't trust you. They don't believe you or they feel attacked. So leaders that are driving results, that are pushing people to their limits, that are breaking people and then telling them, get back up, you'll be all right. Like they can't say those things to people without a relationship being founded. So leaders also build and foster relationships. What are your thoughts on that, Junior?
I mean, Bobby, you're right. You're right. So it's all about relationships at the end of the day. It's all about relationships. And I'll put it this way. I know we're coming up to the top of the hour. I'm gonna add conversations to that. Because relationships come from conversations, right? But the conversations that I'm talking about is the micro conversations, the one-on-one conversations, the 10-minute conversation, the call in to see how you are conversations. Like that's what really builds relationships. Not necessarily, the 1 hour long, that doesn't necessarily build it. But if you're building a team, it's like, hey, how are you doing? What's going on with you? What's going on with your family? Things like that. That takes like 5 minutes to do. You should be having like weekly 5 minute one-on-one conversations with the people that are in your team to foster that relationship.
Wow. We just hit the top of the hour, Junior, and you know what? I'm gonna stop. I have everything in me says keep going, but I know we're at the top of the hour. But what's interesting is we got through leader. We didn't get through ship, but we got through leader. So, guys, those things will help you become a greater leader. 1000%. At least they have in my experience. And I'd love to get some feedback from you guys before we check out. So please put some flames in the chat if you all were able to benefit from this perspective, this conversation, and if you're excited about implementing some of these leadership capacities in your own organization.
Bobby, I say let's continue tomorrow. We're gonna continue the conversation tomorrow. So if you enjoyed today's conversation, we're gonna continue with the rest of leadership tomorrow. And then of course we might be covering something else, so you don't want to miss it. Stay tuned. Apart from that, I mean, I enjoyed our conversation. My closing comments are you are a leader. Like potential. So check this out. So desire is potential seeking expression, which means if you want to become a leader, you have the potential to be a leader. It's literally your potential looking for a way to express itself. So take the first step by learning about leadership. Now, one of the key parts about learning about leadership, Bobby, is actually knowing who you are. So if you don't know who you are, you don't know how to lead. Now, if you go to www.shawnrais.com, you're going to come across something called an influencer brand profile assessment. Take the assessment. It's 100% free. It's part like the disc, but it helps you to understand who you are at your core, so you could take those strategic steps to not only bettering your life, but bettering the lives of your family. By the way, you could give this to your kids, you could give it to your spouse, give it to a friend, give it to a community. It's free. Just use the resource, discover who you are as a leader, and how you could begin to position yourself not only in your business but also in other areas of your life, so you could be a better leader for yourself and for generations to come. So thank you very much. Have a phenomenal, phenomenal day and speak soon. Let's grow.
Let's grow.